policies and loose monetary policy. Guess what happened to the stock market that year? VOO, the S&P 500, went up over 29.5%. The point is that when big economies inject more money into their system, even if it's outside the US, it has a ripple effect on US asset prices too. Not in all cases, of course, but in many cases when there isn't some black swan event and some crazy recession that gets triggered. But if you made it this far, I just want to tie it all together and explain exactly what this means and what I think. So over the next 6 to 12 months, what I think is going to happen is China will introduce more stimulus because that's what countries love to do to prevent their economies from collapsing. I also think countries from all around the Eurozone will have their own versions of stimulus, and it'll come in all sorts of different variations, including lower interest rates, lowering the reserve requirements for their banks, aka how much banks need to have on hand. They'll introduce more liquidity in the system, and overall, I think this will have an inflationary effect on asset prices, meaning things will probably go up in value. Now, I also think this, especially after the election cycle in the next 6 to 12 months, once investors get a little bit more confident with where the economy is going to go. Now, that also means if you like to invest your money, I think it's a good sign because you'll probably make more money. But the downside is having more stimulus potentially creates more risk of bubbles forming in the economy. But personally, I'm going to continue to dollar cost average, and I'm going to continue buying the S&P 500 index. That's the stock market. I'm going to continue reinvesting all my dividends back into my portfolio, and I'm going to continue buying Bitcoin. So for me, nothing's changed. I'll continue to dollar cost average, which is not a strategy that's going to work for everyone, but because I'm younger and I still have some time left before I retire, I think that's the best strategy for someone in my situation. But I'd love to hear your thoughts about what you think is going to happen, what's happening with China, and what's going to happen over the next 6 to 12 months. And as always, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. I'd love to see you back here next week. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.